more about this vision of yours.
FOMO in the Pokemon card space. So for those of you who don't know what FOMO is, it's a short for fear of missing out. So it's like a psychological phenomena, if you want to put it that way, where you feel like you're missing out on something fun, or you're missing out on an opportunity, and you get this sense of like guilt that you need to react in order to, make sense of whatever you're trying to get to, don't feel left behind, stuff like that. And it's very predominant in Pokemon. There's a lot of, especially from social media, it's kind of ironic that I'm talking about it because this is some of the things that drives FOMO. But, a lot of social media influence, a lot of here's how much I made off this card, here's how much money you can make on this card. So there's a lot of monetary discussions around Pokemon as of late. And it's very easy to kind of get wrapped up in the hype. It's really easy to get wrapped up in, if I don't buy this card now, I'll never be able to afford it again, and that opportunity will be gone forever. And it's very hard and very difficult to process those emotions for a lot of folks. But there is ways that we can kind of navigate the fear of missing out in a healthy way to really be, at the end of the day, like how to accept that you simply can't catch them all. Haha, got it. So one of the things that so basically I'm going to be speaking from personal experience when it comes to FOMO. So the big one is that Pokemon is not going anywhere, right? So there's going to be a lot of big hitters. There's going to be a lot of big chase cards, and they'll forever be in Pokemon, right? So like Poncho Pikachus or Gold Stars or Shinings, those are going to be very, very expensive, very, very high niche cards, right? So, but those, those might give you a sense of FOMO. But there are other cards, that you kind of have to argue against that logic where, okay, well, if your fear of missing out on a Gold Star or a Shining or a Poncho, there are other people who have FOMO of like the big ones, like the Pokemon Illustrator, which are like 6-figure cards, or a PSA 10 First Ed Charizard, right? 6-figure cards. Like that is so that's so expensive for most collectors that it's in a realm that it's not tangible. It doesn't make sense. So you kind of have to adjust that you don't need to get them all, right? So it's like way up here. So if you're kind of like at this, almost like at a bar where, okay, well, here's kind of like where the Poncho is. This is where my FOMO is kicking in, right? But when we're looking at like Pikachu illustrators, like way up here, this isn't even in your thinking. So kind of keep that in mind, that it's almost like a psychological game you have to kind of play with yourself, to where it's like, you're not going to be able to afford that, but you also might not be able to afford certain parts, which is okay. You don't want to go into debt for this stuff. So with those goals, with those cards that you really want, one of the big things is to set really clear goals, right? Like, what do you as a collector really want? Right? So if there is a card, maybe there's like I know a really good amount of people who love collecting cards that aren't really expensive. So there's a person who I follow on Instagram. She's awesome, Kimmy. She loves Wooper, right? Wooper really isn't an expensive card, but she loves collecting them. And so that, to her, as an example, from a collecting point of view, gives her a sense of, this is what I love about the hobby. This is what I'm really enjoying to do. So that's a collection goal of hers, is to collect as many Woopers as she possibly can. And again, they're not very expensive. And so for the ones that do come around, then that allows her, as an example, to adjust what she really wants to do. If she wants to save up for it, if she wants to trade, consolidate, to put towards that card, because that card is going to be her number one goal to focus on. And so another thing that I see a lot of people really kind of getting wrapped up in is being okay with sitting out for a set. For example, me, I haven't bought a new set in like months, because so many times they get so inflated, the hype is crazy. Like the Seismitoad, for example, from Black Bolt and White Flare. That card has been hyped to the moon, and it's like a $180, $190, like $190 card. I don't know what it is now, but I have a friend who really likes Seismitoad and just wanted that card. But it's so hyped that it's just like crazy expensive. And it's okay to sit out of a set to let the hype die down, because it always happens. The ebbs and flows. Like Destined Rivals, hyped beyond belief. And I'm sure once we start to get into the megas and once we start to get into a full deployment of the Black Bolt White Flare, I can almost guarantee a lot of those chase cards that everyone was spending hundreds and hundreds of dollars on are going to regulate a little bit because more and more product is going to be opened. So it's okay to sit out for a little bit to kind of help those costs come down, because I personally do it, and everyone, in my opinion, should do it if there's certain cards from a set that you're really trying to get. The other thing I feel like a lot of people get wrapped up into is the resaleability of the cards that they collect. So, for example, English versus Japanese, right? So if we have an English card and if we have a Japanese card, right? So we have English over here and we have Japanese here, right? So English, let's say that this one is 100, but this version is 50. Some people have such bad FOMO that it's like, okay, well, I like the art. The Japanese version is within my price range. The Japanese version has better texturing, but it's not as much as the English. And some people have FOMO kick in to where long term, if they want to resell the card that they just really wanted here, they have a sense that, oh, I can't sell it and get much of a return as I could if I bought the English version. But at the end of the day, are you collecting due to enjoyment, or are you collecting from the enjoyment of the resaleability of your cards? And both are okay, but the latter gives more of an opportunity for that FOMO because you're thinking about the bottom dollar, because if that card goes up, goes down, whatever, that range widens with English than it does Japanese. I'm not saying Japanese retains value and it's less risk. I'm just saying that, if you have a lower buy-in, you're going to have a lower sellout with Japanese historically when compared to English. So if you like a card because you want to collect it, just collect the version you want. If you want the Japanese and it's within your price range and you love the art, just collect the Japanese. It's not an issue. You know what I mean? You don't beat yourself up over because it's not as expensive as the English version. Because when we were kids, I remember some of my like all up here, you guys can probably barely see it on TikTok, but all right there on my, and I'll even kind of do this real quick, just the chatting. So all those cards up there, those all from my childhood collection. I love those cards more than my actual inventory as a vendor, because those cards, collectively, they probably only cost like $300 because they're beat. I brought them to the playground, all that stuff. But all those I can remember very vividly where I got most of them. And that's the collection I cherish the most, and I don't care about the resaleability of them. Had I cared about them, those would all be gone and consolidated into something else. So that's just something to kind of keep in mind as to why that kind of FOMO kind of kicks in for a lot of folks. And so some additional things to consider too. This is kind of more of like kind of advanced kind of talk from a FOMO perspective, but this desire or this kind of sales pitch that you need PSA 10s. And so, I kind of give it to the point, and this is kind of just a loose example, but let's say that one PSA 10, so this is PSA 10. And this is gonna go back to the English Japanese argument that I was making. One PSA 10, in most cases could equate to, I don't know, let's say like 1, 2, 3 copies of the same card at a 1 lower grade. So you could get triple the cards in a PSA 9 than one PSA 10, And so the point I'm trying to make is, if you want the PSA 10, again, just your goals, kind of what I was talking about with setting the goals that you specifically want. But if you want to collect, say, like a jungle master set graded, it might be a better time in your investment to buy the PSA 9 versions, to buy 3, so like Jolteon, Vaporeon, Flareon, versus the 1 Snorlax as a PSA 10, just as an example. And the nice thing about the 9s, and this is what I do personally in my own collection, I tend to upgrade. So if so like my personal slab collection for my 151 decks, most of them are 9s. So my thought process is I get to use these as kind of upgrades. So if I ever come across a 10 in the wild, I can think, okay, I have a 9. I could trade that 9 in to help me get to the 10, if that makes sense. So you can kind of see about it that way too. So you don't always have to get the 10s, because at the end of the day, a 9 and a 10, for me personally, and it might be for you, they're still packed fresh. There's nothing wrong with them. Like, I just care that they came out of a pack fresh and they're kind of, I was the original owner. That's why I don't mind 9s for my personal collection. I would say the other thing to keep in mind is, especially on social media, the hype is crazy, because it really wasn't that long ago, maybe within like a year, that Diamond and Pearl, that era, was not cool. It was not like the big dog of the conversation, right? It was just like no one really cared about, Diamond and Pearl, up until like a certain point when people were trying to like grasp at straws. It's like, okay, like what's the new thing that we're gonna pump, right? Because Diamond and Pearl, like, and then Pearl. So like maybe like 2 years ago was like, for example, let's say like $5, and then today it's like, let's like triple the price. So like let's say 15, all because of like hype, right? Which is a huge component of FOMO, skyrocketed the price by like 3x. All because of that FOMO cycle and that kind of like, okay, where is a cheap set that we can buy in really quick to elevate the price? And Diamond and Pearl was that era. But that's kind of, have you seen the Japanese cards at better grades? It makes sense. I mean, their Japanese quality control is crazy. At the end of the day, like, FOMO is a real big thing in Pokemon specifically. It's really just kind of up to us to kind of keep tabs of why we're still in the hobby to begin with, right? If you're just in it for monetary value and monetary gains, that's one thing. You can enjoy it that way, whatever. But just make sure to set realistic goals for yourself so that when you go to like a show, let's say that you go to a Collecticon, there is every card you could possibly imagine at that place for sale. It's the biggest collection convention ever, at least as of this time. And so the desire to buy everything will always be there. But just know that your budget and your lifestyle and how you enjoy the hobby will dictate what you can and can't afford. So going into the collection space, knowing kind of what you want to collect and what you don't want to collect, will help you kind of fight those initial urges of like, man, I know I'm only looking for X, Y, and Z, but I haven't seen that card in forever, or I don't think I'll ever see that card in that condition again. Pokemon's not going anywhere. The internet exists. eBay exists. There will be times where you can buy stuff. And for most of us, for the stuff that you could say, well, this is a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity, most of us are not collecting Pikachu illustrators. We're not even near that level of, have to arrange a meeting to go to Dubai to buy a card, to buy like a Magikarp Pokemon Snap promo. None of us are going to be in that realm. So keep it realistic. You don't need everything, and just kind of collect what you like. That's kind of how I see it. And then if you don't care about the resaleability, again, even more reason and more, honestly, enjoyment, because Japanese cards, like what Cody was mentioning, the condition is a lot better. Their quality control is a lot better. Their texturing for modern is way better than ours. But it just simply, on average, doesn't sell as well as English, excluding Japanese exclusives like the Ponchos, the Screams, and stuff like that. So you can get more bang for your buck if you genuinely like the artwork without feeling like, oh, well, this won't resell well in 3 years. It's like if you're collecting it for yourself, then it doesn't matter, right? Do whatever you want. If it gives you joy, at the end of the day, that's all you should care about. Because as kids, I can confidently say, as kids, we didn't care about value, right? Like if someone wanted, I remember very vividly with the Charizard that's on my wall, that someone traded me their Charizard, which is the last Pokemon I needed to collect that wall right there as my childhood. All he wanted was 3 of my trainers that I had in a shoebox that I did not care about. I hated trainers. I hated opening them. But he really wanted 3 of them because he played the game. And I really wanted his Charizard because I needed it for my last entry. And we didn't have TCG Player back then. We didn't have a sense of, oh, I'm getting ripped off. Like, he had cards that he wanted, I had cards that he wanted, and it was a good trade, and it's a very memorable, positive experience for me. Like, I know now, like, the value is way better, but we just didn't care about that. And so I think that's the essence that we really need to kind of protect at all costs, in my opinion, because the moment you lose that ability to really enjoy collecting, then it all just becomes like crypto, NFT, sneaker, like that type of vibe. And for me personally, I don't like that. And so that's why combating FOMO as much as you possibly can, I think, is a really healthy approach to collecting. That's kind of my opinion on it. So before I switch over, I'm going to see if you guys have any other questions about, or just what do you guys think? Like, am I kind of not realistic? Like, do you guys experience FOMO? Like, I want this to be kind of an open conversation, to be quite honest with you, because, you know, FOMO is a really big thing. And, you know, I think a lot of people get affected by it. All my cards as kids have horrible condition, but I love collecting them because Pokemon. I know, right, Jenna? Like I think you were. I think I just got done telling the story, but I have a good friend in the community. She loves collecting Whoopers. You know what I mean? Like, Whooper isn't a very expensive card, but she loves collecting them, and it's super cool. You know. And I'm in the same way. Like, all that. Like, again, I keep pointing at my wall, but all these cards up here on the top of the screen, all those were from my personal childhood collection, and I would never get rid of them, ever. I don't care about the price. I don't care about getting major stonks. All of them are beat up. I remember most of them I carried in my pocket and brought into the woods with me when I would build snow forts. All of them are wrecked, but I love every single one of them. I still remember the first 2 cards I've ever gotten to start my Pokemon journey, which was a Charmander and a Tangela from my friend, because he had so many extras. Those are the 2 that I vividly remember, and that will always stay with me. And those cards are pennies. You know what I mean? They're not worth anything, but I don't care. I would never get rid of. I would never get rid of any of that, ever. So, but I hear you. I totally hear you. All right, so let me see if I can. I'm gonna get my other desk set up because I'm going to go through some cards that are still unprocessed. Luke over on YouTube. FOMO kills people who can't think long term. There will always be better deals or new opportunities. Yes, I 100% agree. That's another good way of thinking about it too, is thinking that that one opportunity is the only opportunity you'll ever get. And trust me, it is not. Just as long as you as long as you frame your mindset of putting yourself in areas where opportunities that you're looking for present themselves the most, then it will come again. Like, if you're looking for a specific card, but you feel like you're never going to see it again, just simply enjoy going to more card shows to hunt that card down. That's kind of the fun of it too. It's almost like legitimately, it's almost like thinking about like a real world Pokemon hunt to where, hey, you know, that one got away, but I know that it's still here somewhere and I'm going to try to find it again. That's what's fun about it. So the other day, an adult took the last pack of machine from an excited kid behind. I mean, it happens, man. And it's not good. I can tell you that. It's not good.
It's where I belong.